a lot of us have orientations for our new volunteers, right? But I think so many times we turn those orientations into bore-orientations. And if you don't know that you do that, you probably do that. I'm sorry to break that news to you, because we want to make sure that our volunteers are onboarded into those life-giving relationships. We want to make sure that as we're equipping the saints for the work of the ministry, that we're doing so in a way that is winsome, that's wise, that's fun, that's enjoyable, that actually lifts people up instead of crushing them down. And I want to begin with one of my favorite quotes from a pastor named Larry Osborne, who says this: when it comes to training, we need to be able to tell the difference between need to know and need to grow. Now, I'm taking Larry's statement a little bit out of context here because he uses that specifically for discipleship in small groups. But the principle is absolutely the same. When we're talking about training up our volunteers, I think we need to know the difference between need to know and need to grow. Need to know is just the initial training that they have to have before they can begin serving. It's not running through our full standard operations procedure manual. It's not helping them to understand every last scenario, running the risk of telling them every last detail. No, we're just kind of giving them the surface level things that they need to be able to survive their first Sunday. But then there's need to grow, which is the refresher training, just-in-time training, things like that. We know that we're not ever going to be able to train everybody on every single scenario, but we can be there for them as they go during every single scenario, and we can train them in those just-in-time moments. So, as we're talking about training events, how do we create training events that are non-lethal? We've all been a part of a job orientation, a volunteer orientation, a ministry orientation that would qualify as lethal. How do we make them non-lethal? A few points here. Number one, you need to host your volunteer orientations regularly. Now, in this, I am talking specifically in all of these points about your initial onboarding for volunteers. I'm not talking about ongoing training. We'll get to that. But for right now, I'm talking about what do you do with the people who put their yes on the table and say, I'm here to serve. Number one, you host them regularly. I would say you need to have a volunteer onboarding orientation at least quarterly at an absolute minimum. The reason for this is you want to keep something always on the horizon so that if somebody comes to you and says, I'm interested in serving, you don't have to schedule them for 27 months later during the next presidential administration before you can help them to take a step. I would argue, actually, I said quarterly is the absolute minimum. I think you should offer them monthly, and then if nobody signs up, nobody shows interest, well, no big deal. But you should have them hosted regularly so that you always have them in front of people. Number two, you want to conflict proof them. Don't do your volunteer orientation on a Tuesday night in the middle of the school year. Do them on the weekend and on Sunday morning when people are there and childcare, kids' environments are there anyway. Don't make them come out one more night of the week. People live busy enough lives, and at this point, we are just lowering the bar, putting the cookies on the bottom shelf to try to get them there to help them to understand what this ministry is about. And number three, make sure your event is an event. This is what I'm very committed to. So many times we're late for our own trainings. We don't have the room set up. We don't have enough chairs. We run by Walmart and get a box of granola bars and rip the cardboard lid off and throw them out on the table, and we assume that begets quality. Listen, what we are inviting people to is excellence in ministry, and what we are expecting out of them is how they are leading and serving other people. And if we don't start off by serving them well, then we can't possibly expect for them to return that favor and to serve us well, to show up on time, to pull off high quality weekend services, to serve people out of an idea of generosity. You want to make sure your event is an event. And by the way, if you're not an event planner, if you don't have the eye for that kind of stuff, you've got somebody in your church who would love it. Hand that over to them. You take care of the teaching. You let them take care of the environment. Number four, you want to think step and not stuck. I'm talking in terms of volunteer orientations, again, as a onboarding idea as something that people come into to find out more about your ministry. I'm not saying that this is something that they come to. They sign all of these contracts and paperwork and say that they're in your ministry until they get to produce a death certificate to get out of your ministry. This is a step. In our context, a lot of times we'll tell people, this is a chance for you to come and find out more about the ministry that we lead. There is nothing we expect out of you after this training is over with. You come, you listen. If you hate it, no big deal. No harm, no foul. We'll help you find another place to serve. If you come and you like the initial vision casting of what we're talking about, then we'd like to give you another step to come and observe next week and do some on-the-job training. If you don't think that's a good fit for you, we'll help you again. Again, you're in a step. You're not stuck with whatever it is that we give you to do. Number 5, in that training though, if it's only a step, you need to focus on the why. Don't bore people with minutia. Don't go through, as I said, your standard operating procedures manual and read through every line. What you need to do instead is cast crazy vision. If people come to your training about how to disciple in your next gen ministries and you never get around to how do they actually craft a Bible study for the week, that's not a loss in your initial onboarding orientation. Instead, you should spend your time casting ridiculous vision and telling crazy stories about how you're already discipling the next generation and how people already have the opportunity to do that and the lives that are being changed in the middle of it. But even as you cast that crazy vision, number 6, you need to make the ask. There needs to come a time, sometime at the end of that training, where you're telling them exactly what you're asking them to commit to. How often do they show up? How long do they serve? What term? How many months or years does this serving commitment actually commit me to? You've got to be able to get them, whether your ask is, hey, just come back next week and observe, come back next week and shadow, come back next week and meet a few people. You've got to make the ask, are you ready to do that? And after that step, you need to make the ask, are you ready to take another step? And so on and so on and so on. You got to remember these are all tiny little steps. And with that, number 7, you could have seen this coming a mile away. You need to give them a next step. In our context, the ministry where I lead, we have a week 1 training and a week 2 training. Week 1 is all classroom. It's all vision. This is why we do what we do. Week 2 is on the job. It's observation. It's meeting people. It's watching the ministry happen. It's figuring this thing out. It's deciding, would I be a good fit here? Do I like these people? Is this a good match for my specific gifts and my specific skill sets? But even after that, we're helping them to decide, are you ready to come back next week? Is this the team that you want to be a part of? Would you rather try something else? Because we'll stick with you as long as you need us to in order to figure out where it is that you are best going to fit over the long term. And by the way, doing that's not extra work for you. That's an extra step of love and care and discipling for the people that you might have the opportunity to lead long term. Go into this relationship slowly. Don't rush them through it. Help them to understand that you're there for them and you're in their corner. And then number 8, you want to be able to add a hook. Add a hook. When they're coming back for that week 2 observation, introduce them to all kinds of people. In your volunteer huddle, put them up in front of people and pray for them. Say, hey, this is Bob, and he's coming to figure out more about if this is a place for him to serve. And we just want to pray for him this morning and commission him and help him decide, is this a good spot for him? Oftentimes, we'll go ahead and print for them their name tag that got their name etched in on that. And we do that to give that to them as a gift, along with a small little gift bag with their favorite candy bar or favorite soft drink or whatever. We do that as a tiny manipulation, but it's still manipulation because we've gone through all the trouble of printing this name tag. Wouldn't you feel terrible, Bob, not to show back up next week, even though there's no obligation for you to show back up next week? Again, a little bit of manipulation, but if it works, it works. So you want to be able to add a hook that would help people to think beyond just what are you asking them to do, where are you asking them to do it, who are you asking them to do it with, and you want to give them an experience there that they will feel like this is not just a group of individuals that I serve with, but this is a family that I'm a part of. These are people who prayed for me. These are people who introduced themselves to me. These are people who told me that they were in my corner and they were here to answer any questions that I might have had. And they didn't do that because they had to, because they were on staff. They did that because they wanted to, and they were a part of the team that I was going to be a part of, and they wanted it to be a win for me, because if it's a win for me, it's ultimately going to be a win for them. Number 9, you want to be able to debrief the experience. Again, you debrief after multiple of these steps. You debrief especially after week number 2 when they observe, in our example anyway. You debrief after their first few weeks in the role. You debrief after their first month on the role. You debrief after their first 6 months on the role. Do you like it? Is this something that you're enjoying? Is it a good fit for you? Do you want to try something different? Do you want to try another team within our ministry? Do you want to try another ministry altogether? Because we're here for you and we want to help you to figure out what the best thing is in your scenario. And we'll stick with you as long as we need to. Now, I jokingly will tell our volunteers all the time, if you don't like guest services, we'll put you in kids. If you don't like kids, we'll try out students. If you don't like students, we'll give you a shot at the worship team. If you don't like the worship team, let's go to production. If you don't like any of those things, well, we've found the common denominator, and we're not the problem, you are. You may or may not be able to get away with saying that, but I've been around long enough. I just say it and go for it, right? Finally, number 10. Is you've got to be able to close the deal. If you're going to create all of these non-lethal training events, you want to finally and ultimately be able to ask them to commit. Now, yes, I said commit to a next step, say that you're going to come back next week, say that you're going to try this, whatever it is. But at some point, if you've got a volunteer commitment form, if you've got an official, like they're being named to the committee, if there is something in your bylaws where you've got to get whatever is a signature or whatever it looks like in your situation, that doesn't really matter. But you need to close the deal. Now, to go back to the first part of this 3-part series, this is not an until death commitment. We realize that the Spirit moves people into and out of situations. We realize that their circumstances might move them. We realize that their desires and dreams and want-tos might change in the next 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. But for this time, in this season, we need to ask them to commit to whatever it is that we are asking them to commit to, and to do that however they do it in your particular situation.